Welcome to the BookWorthy podcast. I'm children's author Valerie Fentress, and we are here to talk about kid lit that's good for your kids' hearts and souls. Kid lit ranges from ages birth to teens, so there's a lot of shelf space to cover. Today, we are talking with Kelli McKinney about her middle grade book, Jeff Pennant's Guide to Raising Happy Parents. Welcome to BookWorthy, Kelli.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. But to start us off, you need to answer one fun little question. What is the most memorable Halloween costume you wore or your kids wore?
Oh my goodness. I have a couple, but the one that pops into my mind, when my son was in 4th grade, he loved the video game Plants vs. Zombies. And so I made a giant paper mache zombie head and outfitted him with an old brown jacket from my dad and sent him off to school in this giant zombie head. So it was too big to actually go through some of the elementary school doorways. So it didn't quite, but it was a lot of fun. There's that one. And then when I was in 4th grade, I loved clowns, mostly because they scared my brother. And so I did the full polyester clown costume and white makeup and so that was fun.
I think that's one of those classic Halloween costumes that almost every kid has to experience once, is the clown costume.
Yes. And I look back at the photos from my 4th grade. I'm like, oh no, that's terrifying.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm not sure what my kids are dressing up as this year. So we'll see. It's usually either really planned out or it's last minute. And
yeah,
they all love dressing up.
No, mine is off in college now. So I'm hoping that he sends me a picture of whatever it is he ends up in.
Hopefully he stays safe and has fun at the same time, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Kelli, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Well, I am I've been married for 24 years this fall. My husband is a Houston native by way of Oklahoma, and we have a almost 19-year-old son who is, as I just said, he's off in his first year of college. So that has brought a lot of change in our little household. So I'm officially an empty nester, which is so weird.
You are wearing it well, I will say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's, God has been good to us, and I'm just looking forward to this next chapter of our lives. For sure.
It'll be interesting. As a Texas native myself, what college did your son go off to?
He went to Abilene Christian. So
okay. I had a cousin that went there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she lived in Abilene and went to ACU quite a while ago, but heard good things. So
yeah, it's been great so far.
Very fun. Well, your book, Jeff Pennant's Guide to Happy Parents, is a fun middle grade book about Jeff. Can you tell us a little bit about Jeff and what brings him to write such a guide for happy parents?
Oh, goodness. Well, Jeff, bless his heart, Jeff is in that stage of childhood where, you go from being kind of the center of your world to realizing that other people have feelings and needs and wants, and so when this is about him, kind of his eyes opening to that, and Philippians 2 verses 3 talks about doing nothing from selfish ambition or empty conceit, but think of others as more important than yourselves. And so that's the verse that kind of guided me through Jeff's growth, is how he learns to do just that with the help of his parents and some friends and a teacher, a very important teacher, and the memories of his grandmother. So those are
so fun. I must tell you, in reading some of your book, I felt like you were in my living room because I have an 11-year-old and if just totally all the antics that Jeff gets into is literally what goes on in my home. My 11-year-old is right now in charge of trash. And I know there's a scene at the beginning where there was a trash incident, and I'm just like, yep, that's happened in my home. So I felt seen as a parent reading that book.
Well,
now, kind of one of the motivations of Jeff is that he wants to go to GamerCon. So video games is kind of his motivation for most of his actions in the book. As a mom of boys, how did that experience of raising a boy that probably loved video games too help you write from Jeff's point of view?
Well, I have to say, I mean, my son is a little bit like Jeff in that he has a lot of varied interests, and he is interested in them very intently, you know. But I think as far as video, like I grew up with video games as well, and learning to moderate is an important skill. And so I looked through it. There have been many times in my son's raising where we've had discussions about, you know, there are times for everything, and this is not the time for the video games. I feel like I'm maybe not answering your question very well.
No, you're doing a great job. But no, it's just kind of one of those video games is this big draw to kids and has become a very big social element for kids. And I thought it was really neat to see Jeff struggling with that as you know, I know as a parent struggle with managing my kids' screen time as well. And so I really appreciated that perspective because it does get overwhelming.
It does. And I think this was written during the beginning months of COVID, and when being online was the only way that my son could connect with his friends. And you know, I felt that struggle, you know, that tension of, even though he was older at the time, you know, wanting to encourage him to do something else, but also knowing how important being connected to other people really is. And so half the time when he was on his headsets, they really weren't playing, they were just talking. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's hard to know where that line is. And I tried to authentically show that struggle. I hope I did it. So.
I feel you did, because it's kind of living my life day by day, is watching my kids having to make the decisions that, hey, is your obedience more important than this game? When I say it's time to turn off, and I don't know. I was like,
honoring in that moment, you know, making sure that you are honoring your mother and father. There's many discussions.
Yes, a lot. Now, as Jeff goes through this story, as he tries to make his parents happy so he can get to GamerCon, what is his big light bulb moment as he discovers kind of what does make a happy parent?
Yeah, I think, you know, this book actually was written to be read together in a lot of ways. And I think as a parent, when you read through it, you see lots of little moments that ought to be light bulb moments, but they don't end up being that. And I don't want to give too much away, but I think it builds to where Jeff doesn't have anything left to lose. And at least in his mind, he doesn't have anything left to lose. And so that moment of realizing that it's more important to humble yourself, I think it happens close to when he recognizes that he actually does enjoy spending time with his parents, and he actually does enjoy that relationship, and that's an important relationship. I think that's when the light bulb turns on, is when his heart and his mind are both opened at the same time.
Very neat. What we as parents hope our kids experience.
Yeah.
At any moment, please.
And we're tested a lot, aren't we? And I think with kids, for Jeff, he took the tests personally, and and his pride was a little bit of an issue, as it is with all of us, right? I mean, we all struggle with those things. And so I really wanted to give him an authentic moment to recognize, okay, I'm the problem here. It's me. I'm the problem. And I hope that comes across. And really, there's so many things in this book where I feel like, I wanted to write something that I could have used as a parent of a young boy. And we read with our son until he was well into high school, and that will spark those conversations of what should he have done in this moment? What do you think he was feeling? Do you ever feel like that? Those sorts of conversations, I think, can bring families closer together, which is really, one of the goals of this book. So
very fun. And I really think you've done that just to help, parents see a kid's perspective and a kid's to see the parent's perspective in the situation that Jeff is going through. And I really enjoyed that. Okay. Now, there's one character, Miss Petty, who is their science teacher. And I really loved her. I was like, every kid should have a Miss Petty in their life. And I was wondering, did you have a Miss Petty teacher that encouraged creativity and curiosity in your schooling?
I was fortunate to have several Miss Petties, but the ones that stand out in my mind was my third grade teacher, and her name was Mrs. Marquette. And Mrs. Marquette was the kind of teacher where, my dad traveled a lot when I was young, and I cried. I cried when my dad would go, and you imagine this 8-year-old girl in your classroom struggling to kind of keep it together. Sometimes, she was so encouraging, and she was so respectful, and would often, tell me to think about, how my dad feels when he's off someplace else. And not only does he have me to miss, but he has my mom and my siblings. And she would encourage me to think of different ways to spend my time and to different things to think about. And often I remember one time I was having a hard time, and she gave me my favorite book, which is Charlotte's Web. It still is Charlotte's Web. And said, why don't you distract, go read a good story. And okay, thank you. I mean, I think every teacher has a student like me at one point or another. And the good ones really know, like you said, to channel creativity and to be respectful and kind. And she looked after me. There's a scene in Jeff Pennant where she seeks him out. Miss Petty seeks him out in the library. And I was actually thinking of Mrs. Marquette when I wrote that, because that's exactly what she would do. She would kind of check in on me and other people as well. So
fun. I love how teachers have that impact. I have several teacher friends, and they say, come the end of the year, they basically build a family over the course of a year, and then they have to say goodbye to their family. And so it's just but teachers have just an amazing power to influence little hearts and minds, and to help you grow and to understand your world a little better. And I love that. And you said Charlotte Webb is one of your favorite books. Yes,
it is. Yes. Yes.
Now, which character did you love the most out of that book?
I wanted to be Fern Arable so badly. I really did, because I love animals, and I don't know, just the way she was just on fire to save his little life, and I loved that. So I always wanted to be her.
Yeah, she's such a great character of both compassion, caring, and spitfire. Oh, yeah. It's like every girl wants to be a little bit of both of those. So fun. Now, you say on your website that you were a corporate marketer before wandering off to be a children's author. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. Well, so early on, when I graduated college, looking for a job, and I got so lucky and landed my dream job right out of the gate, working for the Oklahoma Arts Institute in public relations. And then from there, I took a little jump back to college and met my husband. But after that, I've been working, or I had been working for Sprint and Walmart and just in brand marketing and advertising. And it's funny because you would think that I would be great at marketing my own book, but it's so different. It's so different when you're marketing something that's not yourself.
Right. There's a distance and
Yeah.
like, this is mine. And you kind of want people to find it, but you don't want people to find it because they find out so much about you in your books too, right?
Well, and I came to Christ a little later in life, and I felt really conflicted about what I was doing in advertising. I felt like maybe trying to get people to covet is not, enough to want to buy a product. It isn't the way to go about things. And I was really, really fortunate in that I was able to leave the corporate world and to start freelance writing around that same time. God does such amazing things.
Its timing is perfect, right?
Yeah, absolutely, always is.
Too fun.
That's what I did.
So marketing was kind of your vein for a long time. Was there anything inside you as a kid that wanted to be a writer one day?
Oh my gosh. I wrote my first book before I knew how to spell my name. I always knew. When I was very little, I always knew I wanted to write a book someday because I loved reading. I loved reading. I still do. And I knew I doubted myself a lot for a very long time. It's a hard thing to do. But God is gracious and gave me a lot of practice, a lot of trial and error, a lot of failure, and probably still some more failure to go through, but his way is best. And I'm so, so grateful.
Too sweet. Now, do you remember what that first book was about?
I do, in fact. It was about a cowboy named Sam who had some dubious moral qualities because I think he robbed a bank. He helped rob a bank. And then decided that, he was going to keep the money and go run away into the desert somewhere. And it was about a cowboy.
It sounds like you enjoy a fun character that has to discover things on his own. So I can see a little bit of Jeff in that, or a little bit of that cowboy in Jeff too.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Yes.
Too fun. Well, what was it? What is I think we've talked about this a little bit, but if you had kids walk away from your book with one message, what would you want them to walk away with?
To honor your mother and father and to put other people and their needs before your own. And maybe listen to your grandmother once in a while.
We forget how important those older minds and hearts are to us, don't we?
Absolutely.
Even as adults sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
So fun. Well, what has been the most impactful or inspirational book in your life, Kelli, other than the Bible?
Oh, okay. Other than the Bible, the Bible just changed my life. So it's hard to think of a book that was not as impactful as that. Oh man, I'm going to have to think about that. There was a book, a long time ago, and I kept it, for a very long time. It was about a girl who went to sleepaway camp, and the title of the book was Laura's Luck. And I remember relating so much to this young girl because things didn't quite go her way a lot of the time. But she persevered, and she wanted so badly to do the right thing, but had a hard time doing the right thing sometimes. And that one has always stuck with me. I'm thinking in particular about a time where there was a dress that she wanted. She was going to go to a party and she wanted a dress, but I think the dress was like $12 and she only had $7 saved. And I don't know why that stuck with me the way that it did, but just that, the things that we want are worth being patient for. And sometimes the things that we really want aren't the best things for us. So that's Laura's luck, I guess, to answer your question.
Well, it sounds like a sweet book that really impacted you and, helped you, see yourself in another character and teach you so many wonderful things. And I think that's the power of children's books, is they have the power to help us see beyond ourselves and just, see beyond the world that we live in. And I love that your book has done that also, just to help me as a boy mom see beyond the, gaming world that my kids like to live in, and to see that, God's working on their hearts and their minds just as hard as I am.
That's a thing that I've had to think about a lot over these past few weeks. And after taking my son to college, and you pour in and you pour in and you pour in, and then when not everybody their path is not always college, but there is a letting go point. Mm-hmm. And I have really taken a lot of comfort in knowing that God loved him even before I did. And he loves me he loves him. He loves me too, but he loves him even more than I could do. And oh my gosh, that's so much. And that's so peaceful. And so I hope that, I don't know, as a boy mom, I hope that that's something that you can take comfort into. So
I know it's one of those things is, our love for our kids is so big, it's hard to imagine a love beyond that, because we do anything for them. And it's amazing that God does love a million times more than we can. And that just is so hard to comprehend. But it, like you said, it can be such a giver of peace when they're going through a hard time. You're like, okay, God's going to use this. God's going to do what he needs to do to accomplish the goal that God has for your sons. And so deep breath, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, I hope in my little story that there's enough ups and downs, that give parents things to talk about with their sons or daughters, but with their little readers, that yes, sometimes things are hard, but God teaches us something every step of the way. And we may not always see it in the moment, but it's there.
That's right. And I love what you have their friendship element, that Jeff and his two buddies, and just the struggle that they have. And I think, in this post-COVID world, friendship has been this really awkward thing for my young kids. And that it's really neat to see the ups and downs that Jeff goes through with friendship. Just to be like, yeah, it doesn't have, just because you have a friend, it doesn't mean they don't talk to anybody else. That's hard for young minds to understand. Like, just because they are your friend, but they can talk to other people too.
There is absolutely, and friendships can be so hard at that age, because mm-hmm. I mean, again, they're seeing things through a me lens, and people aren't. They're not a gaming. You can't use your little controller and make them do the things that you want them to do. That's not a kind thing. That's not a loving way to be. And learning to be a good friend is a very important skill.
Yeah, it is, especially at kind of that middle grade age, because once they hop over to middle school, it's a whole new game, and then high school and college, and it never stops.
No, it doesn't.
Well, Kelli, what can we expect next from you?
I have, I'm working on a picture book right now, and I'm also working on another middle grade, and God willing, I'm hoping they will find a home and be in front of eyes and hands sooner rather than later. That's what I'm working on.
Very neat. That's exciting to see things moving forward and exploring your own creativity and the worlds that you want to create for readers and parents too. So where can people find out more about you, Kelli?
So you can find Jeff Pennant at my publisher's website, which is chickenscratchbooks.com. And you can also find it at my website, which is kellimckinney.com. And that's Kelli with an I, McKinney. So.
Very fun. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Kelli.
Valerie, thank you so much for having me. And best of luck with your podcast and all the things that you have going on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining Kelli and me on this episode of the BookWorthy podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for any books or links we discussed. Then let us know in the comments what was your most memorable Halloween costume. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to help us discover more great books together. Happy reading.